we're going to just ask them to give a quick introduction, name, rank, serial number, so you know who we're talking with today, and then we'll dive into the questions. So Lorna, who are you?
Good morning. My name is Lorna Van Akron, and I work for Continuum Hospice, and I help families and loved ones navigate the end-of-life journey. I am a big senior advocate, myself included, and there's a lot of people I notice in the room that I've seen before. I serve on the Advisory Council on Aging for Contra Costa County, the Commission on Aging for Pleasant Hill. I also serve on the Board of Directors for Meals on Wheels Contra Costa and the Board of Directors for Choice in Aging.
Thank you. Zeno.
Okay, good morning. My name is Zeno Rasmussen. I'm a professor at California State University in Hayward State, now called East Bay. You got to cover the names in case you attended it under one of the previous names. I've been a professor in human development for 25 years. My background is in neuropsychology of aging and dementia, and here I've learned so much more about the lifespan. Happy to tell you a little bit about what I do there, and I'll pass the mic on.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Rossell. I work at Inner Health and Wellness here in Walnut Creek. We're a wellness nutrition company. I personally am a functional nutritionist, and I also have just got my second master's in clinical nutrition. So I kind of run the gamut on nutrition in all aspects. But I really focus on whole body healing with food. I believe food is medicine. And I really feel like the way we eat throughout our life can impact our longevity and really makes a difference in our quality of life. And I feel passionate about food and what it can do for us and how it can heal us. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we're sharing today. Thank you for inviting me, Dayna.
Dr. Kim.
My name is Paul Kim, and I am a board-certified family physician, started out. From my training there, I felt that there was a void in helping patients really stay healthy. And so then I got training to be a board-certified obesity medicine doctor and a what they call board-certified anti-aging doctor, although I don't like that term because you can't stop aging. But what I try to do now, and I founded a clinic called the Medical Institute of Healthy Aging, I am trying to do the first type of proactive medicine where I'm trying to keep you healthy and avoid the chronic illnesses that we face as we age. And so my clinic is the first of its kind to address this. And unfortunately, one of the things that makes it difficult is that the insurances don't believe in this type of medicine. But I'm here to help.
Yay. Thank you all for being here today. They're giving their time and their wisdom to us, so we very much appreciate them. Did you know 10,000 baby boomers turned 65 every day? And in 15 years, Americans age 65 and over will outnumber those 18 years old and younger. We are going to be rock stars, people. In 2050, approximately 45% of the U.S. population will be older than 65, and people 80 and older will be the fastest growing segment in our population. That's mind-boggling. I mean, I didn't realize this. I've done a lot of research to put this presentation on, and I think that's amazing. So this means public policy is going to need to change. Lorna knows that. Also, a mindset shift is going to need to occur. And the classic view of modern life was 3 stages, right? We learned, we earned, and we retired, right? We grew up kind of thinking that way. Now, for example, multiple stages can exist within retirement, including more learning and earning. Well, the very fact that you're attending today attests to that, right? You're here to learn. I think that's awesome. My goal today and our goal today is to help each of you find your own longevity opportunity to enjoy better, more secure, and longer lives. So I just thought this would be a really great way to kick off a new year with all this wonderful information. So I was inspired originally to introduce this topic to kick off the seminars this year after watching the Netflix series, you know what I'm going to say, right? Living to 100, The Blue Zones. Who's seen that one? Okay, just a handful. Okay, that's your homework. You're going to go home and you're going to watch the Netflix Living to be 100, The Blue Zones. Dan Beutner, he's the Blue Zones founder. He's a National Geographic Fellow, multiple New York Times best-selling author. He holds a lot of Guinness World Records for various things. He's discovered there's 5 places in the world dubbed the Blue Zones where people live the longest and are the healthiest. Okinawa, Japan; Sardinia, Italy; Nicoya, Costa Rica; Icaria, Greece; and Loma Linda, California. Check that out. So it got me really excited, and it got me thinking about how some big and mostly small things can make such a huge difference. So after all, everyone wants to age with superior health, physically and mentally, and we want it to be something easy like, oh, can I just eat more blueberries? Or maybe I can just do like a little crossword puzzle every morning. Would that work? Or maybe lose 10 pounds. That'll help me live longer. But it's much more complex. It's a complex combination of factors. So according to this classic concept, successful aging is defined as high physical, psychological, and social functioning in an old age without major diseases. And together for the next hour or so, we're going to delve deeper into this, as well as send you home with things you can start doing today. See, every time you come, you're going to get a little tiny homework, so just be ready for that. If you got your binders, we thought we would try something new this year. We're all giving you a late holiday gift, and we're giving out little binders. And I know over the years, because we're in our 7th year of doing this every single month, you've collected a lot of good information. So now you can 3-hole punch it and put it in your binder. You're going to be so organized. It's probably on your list of things to do this year anyway. Get more organized. Okay, so you know the drill. How many newbies are here for the first time today? Anybody? Okay, what, 4 or 5? All right. Okay, groupies, you know what to do. Turn to your neighbor to the right and say, I am excited to learn how to live a healthier, happier life. Aren't you? Now turn to your left and say, you bet. Okay, so now let's start with understanding some terms and concepts. And we're going to start with Zeno. I love your name, by the way. Zeno, what is gerontology? It's a big old word. And then after that, maybe a follow-up with what your thoughts are about the Blue Zones and how we emulate these communities. How can we do that?
Yeah, sure. Gerontology is simply the study of aging as a process, or older adults and elders as a group of people. So this interdisciplinary approach, it's not just one thing. We have sociologists, anthropologists, psychologists, health scientists, physicians working on this question of studying aging and what it means to be old and grow older. And for decades, the emphasis was on a deficit model. What goes down as age goes up, right? So a really important turn was what they called the new gerontology, and that was put into place by Rowe and Kahn and their model of successful aging, which Dayna just reviewed. It's physically healthy, mentally strong, and socially engaged. And so and it turned the model away from, what's going wrong to what can go right. So the Blue Zones start to identify some groups of elders who have successfully aged, and how can we emulate that? It's not easy work. It just so happens it looks easy when you live in a beautiful place and you have great food and an active lifestyle and social engagement. So that's the 3 core that make successful aging. It was a real important turn for gerontology, and it's also part of a bigger movement called pro-aging. Thank you, Dr. Kim, for the anti-aging label just doesn't work. So you want a mindset shift, start thinking about pro-aging, or being, like I say, anti-aging.
I like that.
You got to be pro-aging. So that's a little bit about gerontology, some exciting concepts that cut across disciplines, that are based on this aging society. So we used to look like this, a triangle where the smallest group of people were at the top. Now we're looking like a rectangle where the age groups are more evenly distributed across 5 and 10-year bandwidths.
Awesome. Thank you for that
Sure thing.
explanation. Nicole, what's the difference between a nutritionist and a dietitian? And I'm asking for myself. And then will you talk about the diets these 5 groups around the world had that allowed them or allow them still to age in such a healthy way in both mind and body?
Yeah, sure. So anyone, all of you could call yourselves a nutritionist today and start to work as a nutritionist, maybe. A registered dietitian, however, requires much more education, and I believe in 2024 you will have to have had a master's degree to become a registered dietitian. So it's a board certification. So you have to go through a certain amount of schooling, and then you have to take an exam to become a registered dietitian. Nothing against nutritionists. I still am a nutritionist, but it doesn't have the rigor involved or the certification at the end of it, if that makes sense. As far as the blue zone, there were lots of commonalities among all these 5 zones in the world, no matter, they're very far apart. We go from Japan to Costa Rica. One of the biggest commonalities is that mostly they eat plant-based. So the majority of their food is a plant. They do eat meat, some of them more than others, but meat is used very sparingly, and animal products in general are eaten very sparingly. Some of the diets allow yogurt and dairy, a lot of sheep's milk, goat's milk versus cow's milk. We in America tend to eat most of our dairy from cows. This is not the case in the other blue zones. Most of it's from other animals. And again, it's used sparingly, so most of the diet is plants and vegetables. Another commonality is they eat whole grains, which are very low glycemic index, and I won't get into that because that could go for another hour, but essentially these grains impact your blood sugar a lot less than the very refined grains like white bread and things like that we eat a lot of in America. They use tons of spices, whatever part of the world, the spices that are from that part of the world, they use lots of spices, and all these spices have different antioxidants and chemical compounds that are really beneficial for you, so tons of different spices. They do drink some red wine in some of these parts of the world, not all of them, but red wine is okay for some of these cultures. And then I would say, I think the thing that's most interesting is that they eat what is around them and what is culturally and traditionally appropriate and what they've grown up eating. So it's very tied to the place that they're at in the world and all of it. So that makes it local, that makes most of it seasonal. They eat what's in season, and they eat things that grow around there. For example, in Okinawa, Japan, they eat a lot of algae. They eat a lot of seaweed because they're right by the ocean. In Costa Rica, they eat more meat because that's what's available and has been available for centuries. So it's all very tied into their way of life, and I think that's a really important aspect to think about. And plant-based. That's a takeaway.
Nice. Thank you. Awesome. Lorna, the blue zones. What do you see as important commonalities of these super agers? And I know you had a special thing you want to talk about as far as mindfulness, et cetera.
I think one of the common denominators in the blue zone, all 5 areas, is the sense of family. There was a huge family connection, be it your true blood family or be it your friends and social family. And I think that goes through all 5 of the areas. And it's also important to note that their social network was very important to them. And you also need to know that your social network is going to change over life. And as you age, your needs and interests are going to change, and you may need to review your friendships and maybe let go of a few of the friendships that are not working for you, that are causing anxiety and stress.
Okay. Awesome. Dr. Kim, I don't even know how to say this word. Please explain what valingerontology is, and then how does this align with what's going on in Italy, Japan, Costa Rica, Greece, and Loma Linda, California?
Thank you. So valingerontology is a term I coined to try to equate what you recognize in doctors in terms of specialty fields. Like everyone's familiar with what a dermatologist does and what a cardiologist does. But in this field of medicine, trying to create proactive medicine, everyone are more used to terms like integrative physicians or holistic physicians or functional medicine doctors. And so I tried to coin a term that would then equate to the level of a dermatologist or a gastroenterologist. And so the term valingerontologist, basically, as you already know, gerontology, study of aging, but putting the prefix valin makes it strong and healthy. So now I am studying on a clinical level strong and healthy aging. So basically, it's really the first type of proactive medicine, as opposed to the system, which is a reactive medicine, where everyone is waiting in the system for you to get sick. In proactive medicine, we're trying to figure out how to prevent you from getting sick, and the most common factor of all disease is how you're relatively aging. And so using these concepts, and what's common with all of these ideas related to the blue zones, basically incorporates the four main concepts of what was termed by the Institute of Functional Medicine prescription strength level medicine for health. These are lifestyle changes that are very much in play in these blue zones on a community level. Two of them are very obvious. One is physical activity and being very mobile, and the other one is nutrition and food. The other two that are equally as important, and that aren't probably displayed in the blue zone as much, but they're probably there in the background, is sleep, very important for your recovery, and stress management. Stress is probably one of the things that the blue zones do really well on a community-based level. When you realize how much stress needs to be managed well, it really does help modify your disease picture. So those are the things that I'm trying to create in a new type of medicine.
I'm going to need to talk to you about my problem with sleeping, but that's a whole nother discussion. Okay. Well, I just finished a book by Susan Wilner Golden called Stage, Not Age. And I found this very interesting. She tries to help companies actually understand that people over 60 are a deeply diverse population. She goes on to discuss the notion of a 5-quarter life and the many stages and how they play out over time. She admits it's funky math, but the idea is that it's the idea of getting extra time that was once unavailable to us, but is now, thanks to increased longevity and health span. And by the way, people confuse longevity with aging. So celebrating a 90th birthday tells us their longevity, their length of being here on Earth, but nothing about their aging. So longevity is chronological, biological, and a natural phenomenon, where the period of living an independent and healthy one is your health span. So that's the time when we're free from serious diseases. So don't tell her I'm talking about her behind her back, but let's take my own sweet mom. She's about to celebrate her 93rd birthday. However, she began to experience chronic conditions as early as her 60s. So, in Susan's 5 quarters framework, Q1 is the starting quarter, right? That's birth to 30, approximately. You're walking, you're talking, you're learning, and you're starting families. Q2 is your growing quarter. You're building your adult lives, you're getting to work, you're starting your careers, and that's approximately 25 years to 55 years. Q3 she calls the Renaissance quarter. You repurpose, regenerate, reevaluate, and it typically occurs between 55 and 80. So I know that's a lot of us here today. People in their Renaissance quarter might go back to school. They might begin a new career. They might even start a second family. They may be caring for children or their parents, or even caring for their grandkids. And it may include mentoring, investing, and advising. Q4 is the legacy quarter. And for many, this stage may last into the late 80s and beyond. It involves concerns over health care, changing medical needs and support, and new opportunities to define one's legacy. But here we go. There's a fifth quarter, and that's the extra years we get. The extra years. It's a bonus quarter. It's bonus time that may or may not come with increased health span. And here's the clincher. And if you attended my Living to 100 a couple years ago, we talked about this. We talked about this topic, but from a different angle, which was not anticipated. We don't believe we're going to live to be 100 because, well, my parents, they passed in their late 70s, both of them. My grandparents didn't live they lived till their mid 80s, but I'm not going to live to be 100. But yet you very well might. They're saying that kids that are born before the year 2000 will probably, they should be living to 100. So this is where ageism comes into the picture. At the core, it's a stereotypical assumption that when we turn 65, we become dependent on others for financial assistance, direct care, and grow frail. Well, I think all of us here we can attest to the fact that that's not necessarily true. So panelists, I see ageism as a very prevalent issue here in this country. And why do you think other countries treat their elders maybe with more respect in the media, in the workplace, and in the family? Who wants to take that sort of open for discussion? Zeno, you want to comment on that? Is that a big question?
That's a good interdisciplinary sort of critical concept and question. A few things to unpack there. One is we don't know when we'll end, right? We don't know when the end comes. So prepare, get your stuff in order. Developmental models are always exciting and fun, especially when they're like this successful, this more rosy picture makes us feel a little better, and blue zones sort of feed into that.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of critical commentary on that it's elitist and missing the death that comes before. So it's an incomplete model from an epidemiological perspective. So one idea is to make sure you understand that aging is diversity and diversification. Elders become more diverse than the same group was when you were little. So it seems like maybe you start to look more elderly, I suppose. There's a stereotypical look to identify age, right? But inside, your experiences are more diverse than you were when that same group was younger. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. With that life experience and resilience or not, there's a lot more diverse outcomes as we grow older. So one counter to the successful aging from Rowe and Kahn is Warner Schei's SOC. Now I know we're giving a lot of lists, but it overlays with a lot of these stage models. And it's a stage model that's not tied to age, but you see how you recur through the SOC: specialization, optimization, and then compensation. I was talking to a gentleman here, Ol, is that your name? Ol? Bud? Yeah. We're both cyclists. So as I've aged as a cyclist, I've had to adapt. I've had to optimize and then compensate for the way my body has aged compared to the way I used to ride. I need a new bike with fatter tires, and I ride more upright, and I need more gear, clothing, because I used to ride so hard I would just be warm in any condition. So you have to compensate and be adaptable, because if you want to exercise for the long haul, you've got to compensate for you might have found an optimal way to work out when you were 30 or 40 or 50, but to maintain that physical fitness, you've got to change. The same thing for social groups, same thing for your intellectual, mental creativity stimulation, which we don't want to overlook that too. So those are just some thoughts from academia that are both sort of bring us down. Hey, wait a minute, it's not all rosy, but also give us a model to specialize, which we've all done across our lifespan, to optimize, focus, and really be good at what we do, and then compensate as we grow older. Thank you.
Do any of you also want to pick up on the ageism this country compared to others? Lorna?
I would just like to add that age is just a number. It's how you feel as you age. And the other thing that I'd like to add is as we get older, we have so much more wisdom to offer our fellow humans. And so maybe we can't be as physically active, but we compensate that in other areas of wisdom and life experiences.
I love that. We do have a wise group here today. I can tell. I can just tell. Okay. Who read the recent AARP special report, Super Agers? Did you guys get that? All right, 3 of us. Well, there's another piece of homework. You can go read your AARP magazine, because I am a proud AARP card-carrying member myself. It asked why some folks in their 80s and 90s were thriving when others were grappling with physical and mental decline. Researchers at UC Irvine studied 1,600 participants, 90 years old and older, and came up with the 7 secrets. And I'm going to ask our panelists their thoughts on these secrets, so we can't tell anybody when we leave today, so that we all have a better understanding of how we might become super agers. So, Nicole, one of the secrets was control blood pressure and blood sugar. And I don't know if is that something from our diet? Is that something from I don't know. Teach us.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but everything I said earlier about what they're eating in these blue zones is going to help your blood pressure and your blood sugar. So eating more plants, more vegetables. You can never go wrong with vegetables. Vegetables, vegetables, vegetables all day long. And I don't care what they are. As long as you're not eating a pound of potatoes every day, all the other vegetables, great. The more colorful, the better. They have vitamins, they have carotenoids in them, which are the chemical that gives them their bright color. And they have polyphenols. All of these are fancy words that just mean they're really good for you, and they help your body fight inflammation. If you've all heard about inflammation, we know that that's a major cause in most diseases, chronic conditions. And they are antioxidants, so they help your body fight off free radicals, which is another big word, but it just means that the processes that happen in your body, it helps slow those processes down. So again, less meat. We know heavy meat diets, heavy animal-based diets are very inflammatory in your body. That's going to raise your blood pressure. We know that highly processed foods and refined grains raise your blood sugar. If any of you are dealing with diabetes, that's the major cause of it, as you know. So keeping your blood sugars level rather than having these ups and downs throughout the day is going to help with that. And all those foods I mentioned earlier are going to help with that. Less meat, less dairy, more plants. Again, I'm a broken record, but that's a takeaway for y'all today. Less of all of that, more plants. And you're trying to tell me something. Great question. I think fruit's great. Again, if you're having blood sugar issues, if you're dealing with diabetes or pre-diabetes and you want to try to control your blood sugar, fruit has a lot of sugar. So you're going to want to be aware of that and talk to your doctor about what you individually should be eating as far as that. But fruits are full of vitamins, full of minerals. Some have more sugars than other, like tropical fruits. The really juicy ones, like the pineapples and the mangoes, are very high in sugar. Other ones, like berries, are low in sugar. So blackberries, strawberries, blueberries, those are great to have. But fruits are great. We don't want to overdo it if we're dealing with trying to keep our blood sugar in control, if that makes sense.
Awesome. And in your binder, I believe we did give you a page. And I don't know if we gave you 12 or we'll give you another one every month, or you can make a copy. But write down your questions on that page so you'll remember as we're talking together. And then we'll get our Q&A, we'll get our question and answer at the end. So we want to make sure we try to get through a lot of this good stuff. Because I've got some questions too about the diet. Okay, the second secret was they talk to their friends. This is another super ager secret. They talk to their friends a lot. And Lauren, I'm going to have you talk about that.
Thanks, Dana.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't want to be a broken record, but maintain your family contacts, be socially connected, practice gratitude, pause to think about what you're grateful for every day. Attitude is everything, and I can't stress more than to tell you that it's really, really important to remember your blessings. Also, in terms of practicing your spiritual beliefs, whatever that may be passionate about it. Really live what you believe. And at the end of the day, practice some mindfulness. So if nobody has tried meditation or daily journaling, this is a time to try and start and see what that does for you. Change is always good.
Awesome. Thanks, Lorna. Zeno, another secret was avoiding stress and prioritized mental health. And I think this comes into your bag of tricks, neurochemistry and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and what Lauren was just saying is so important.
Mm-hmm.
It feels intuitive and right, what she's saying, but also the research is showing a mindful practice, whatever it is. You know, you don't have to go like deep into the yogi world and get a new spiritual teacher, but you know, prayer is a form of meditation if that revives something for you, if it's something you've been involved with in the past. As a neuropsychologist, I'll say we have, you know, brain pathways. I'll keep it real simple. We have brain pathways that are still forming new connections. But the obvious way to activate your brain pathways are by moving your body or by practicing old things you used to do. So if you want to revive some neuroconnections, right? If you want to give your brain a boost, you know, practice an old instrument or a language, or read an old book that revives memories, or an old movie, or your favorite old music. Really, you know, treat your spirit. And if you can do it with friends, that's even better, right? So that's, you know, I mean, you're asking like a big question about the, you know, sort of brain health. All these things are very important. Brain inflammation, reducing stress, because that is literally a neuron killer, and forming new connections socially or you know, learning, lifelong learning. Like this, if you're involved with this is great. Address your weaknesses. In bike racing, we used to have a phrase, train your weaknesses and race your strength. So whatever you're missing in your life, you have to be your own personal aging manager. But when it comes to the continuum of care, Lorna's speaking the truth here. You're going to need these extra secrets to get you through stress, caregiver stress included.
Nice. I had you speaking about the fourth secret, which is prioritize sleep. And I don't know if that's up your alley, or also you might want to add something to that if you have anything.
Yeah, I forgot about sleep. How could I forget about sleep? Because I did pick it of the secrets. I'm like, don't forget about sleep. And then I'm glad Dr. Kim mentioned it earlier too. One of the best things you can do for sleep is exercise during the day to manage your dietary needs, get your foods and proteins in by the middle of the day, your exercise early enough to calm down from that, and fall asleep when that sun goes down, as close to it as you can. And tricks like a shower. Melatonin is okay. We could ask the doc what his thoughts on that. It does, you know, one of the models was, look, all these things that deplete as we get older, and we've known about the melatonin depletion and the sleep disturbance for millennia. Elders have written about walking late at night because they can't sleep. You know, these are Shakespearean themes. So the sleep-wake thing, avoid too much blue lights late at night. I mean, sometimes it's fun just to be a more natural person. We are animals after all, really sophisticated, cool, creative, spiritual animals, but we are animals nonetheless. So we have to exercise, wear ourselves out just to sleep sometimes. Also, address your bedding. If you haven't gotten a new bed this century, might I suggest going bed shopping? I've done it with some of the elders in my life. Huge difference. Apnea, address the apnea. It is horrible to go through on either side as a partner, or to have to learn how to sleep with the CPAP, but address that if you have it. Losing the weight might take you off the CPAP, or it might just make everything else go easier, including sleep. So, yeah, exercise, eat right, and sleep all right, sleep all night, right?
Anything else about sleep, Dr. Kim?
I think it's critical that we get the sleep that's deep and not artificial. So a lot of people, unfortunately, are taking some kind of products at times, and they don't realize that that's affecting their natural sleep architecture. So the sleep has to be done in a way that's natural more than artificial, and that's key. Because if you don't get the proper sleep at the REM stage and stage 4, you're not really recovering, you're just more in a sedated state. So that's one of the key factors related to sleep. That's important.
Okay. Well, the fifth secret was protected vision and hearing.
So that's just a general kind of concept related to just keeping your neurofunction intact. And those things are related to the obvious nutritional supports that that you mentioned, right, related to eating the proper nutritional supports for that. But also on top of that, one of the important factors that I find that we neglect as we get older, believe it or not, is just oxygenation. We just don't breathe like we did when we were babies, abdominally. We don't do deep breathing exercises as part of meditation. I mean, yoga is all about breathing correctly. And so when you breathe correctly and you get the oxygenation levels correct, you're calmer, you're able to recover, and neurofunction improves. One of the most sensitive parts of your body for oxygenation is your eye cells. The retina needs oxygen. And so if you lose that going forward, then that's a problem. And that's what you need to have properly done, is oxygenation. And so you got to have that taken care of in other ways. We, in my clinic, offer therapies related to oxygenation. There's something called hyperbaric chambers that can be used also to help improve oxygenation. But that's just doing deep breathing exercises regularly, I think, would help improve your vision and hearing and other neurofunctions.
Okay. Well, the Super Agers report also said that secret number 6 was not necessarily exercising more, but when they exercise, they push themselves physically. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the important factors about aging and trying to prevent the things that happen to you are related to being strong and not suffer through frailty. And so muscle mass and the loss, sarcopenia, is one of the major issues of aging that's not addressed as much in traditional medicine that we try to look at. It's not that difficult anymore to get a body composition scale. It's not that expensive. And you should see what your muscle mass is doing as you're getting older, because muscle is critical for a lot of different things related to health. Believe it or not, muscle has been linked. The increased muscle has obviously prevented diabetes and things of that nature, being more muscular, but it also has been now linked to preventing some cancers. So having a larger muscle mass, which is done with just more than simple exercise. You need to create, like they said, push it to the limit to create that environment where more muscle is needed instead of just maintaining necessarily or losing. And so that's critical for helping your health and longevity.
Oh, thank you.
That's back to compensation. That's back to this compensation model. I love walking. My dogs love me when I'm walking my dogs. It's the greatest thing. We've got this bonding. We're out in nature. It's beautiful. But I don't push myself when I walk the dogs. So I had to pick up the bike again or do some strength training because I was losing mass in middle age. You don't want to lose mass in middle age, but you can regain it, right? Simple things. Grip strength predicts so many negative outcomes, including cognitive outcomes. So grip strength, if you have just a gripper to add to your daily practice, that will be some sort of additional strength training that you don't have now. That's simple, cheap, and easy.
Awesome. I also, this wasn't pushing themselves, but I thought it was really interesting in the blue zones, and I even printed out, Dan Bootner took all those zones and all the different things that were going in all those different countries, and then he finally put it together. I mean, this is just a little diagram. I know you can't see it, but he put it together and formed the commonalities between all of the countries. And what was interesting is in Japan, in specific, they were sitting on this group in Okinawa or Osaka, were sitting on the floor a lot. They had very few chairs and couches. And so just think, all day long, getting up from the floor and getting down, that's like 30 squats, right? But they don't think about it as exercise. That's just the way they're living. So that was gentle. It wasn't. Yeah, it was really kind of interesting. So not necessarily pushing themselves, but it was part of that thing. And Lorna, the seventh secret was people did more than Wordle, right? They did a lot more than that. Do you want to talk about that seventh secret?
Well, as much as your body and physical ability you need to practice, also your brain is a muscle and needs to be practiced. Don't ever stop learning. Engage yourself in activities that stimulate you. Join a book club. Volunteer. Volunteer is a huge need right now. Volunteer and use your wisdom for that. But don't ever stop learning. Meditate. Take a Tai Chi class. Learn something new. Explore your senior center, our adult education, and spend some time practicing something that you've always wanted to do but never had the time to do. Now is the time to do that. Prevent boredom. Boredom is a horrible thing that can cause a lot of stress. And if you engage yourself in activities, like I mentioned, your boredom will be very negligible.
Nice. Yeah. I think that what they stressed in that seventh secret was it was the variety of things. So it wasn't just doing a crossword puzzle every morning, but it was attending lectures and concerts and playing games, listening to music, frequently reading, all sorts of different things. So the research showed, Dr. Kim, that some of these super agers actually had super genes. And, how can we turn on these genes if, can we, by changing our environmental factors and making different lifestyle choices? Yes. I'd love to be able to do that.
Well, so one of the things that really helps is this concept of fasting. Fasting turns on a lot of healthy genes.
Are you saying fasting?
Fasting, yeah.
Fasting.
So fasting, staying away from eating apparently has some survival genes that turn on. And then physical activity and exercise also does the same thing. But I think it brings up a very important point related to proactive medicine and the idea of genes and super genes. Proactive medicine, as opposed to popular and just doing what's in the population, it's more personalized, more precise, and more preventative. And the critical thing there is precise and being personalized. The genes of someone else doesn't mean that you have the same genes. So you really need to get that studied and evaluated to see which genes specific for you are important to turn on based on your what's called epigenetic history, what your exposures have been. So for the first time over the last couple of years, we can start now measuring what's called biological aging. It's actually looking at what your DNA has gone through for your individual exposures and stressors and things that have turned on certain genes for you that have caused accelerated or decelerated aging. And so we can finally measure that kind of stuff. So it's very important to look at it individually and not just broadly at times too. So you do want to get measured, and we can offer that.
So what couple things could we all do, or what should we consider doing to do that?
Well, there's certain now blood tests that are out there that we can measure. Yes, that's what I'm saying, that there are clinics out there that offer this measurement of biological aging, looking at your specific genes.
And then what about any changes in environmental factors or making lifestyle choices that we haven't talked on that would be tips?
Intermittent fasting.
Oh, fasting. Okay,
yeah,
well, so I'm going to have a question about that, but since I've got the microphone, I can ask it. You see these things, even Facebook ads have these weird fasting. If you're this age, fast for this many. Like, how do we know when you say fasting, how do we know what to do and how to do it and when?
Yeah, I mean, so there's actually now a device out there that I offer called Lumen that actually measures how your body's burning either sugar or fats, right? And so the idea here is that certain people at certain stages related to how much fasting can shift their body's metabolism from burning sugars and into fats. Now, at certain stages of your day, like when you're very active, you want to be burning the more efficient sugar. But when you're trying to lose weight and avoid inflammation, you want to be burning fats. Mm-hmm. And so there are now devices that tell you by your breathing It can look at the CO2 index and see where you're at in terms of burning sugars and fats. So the technology is getting out there in terms of all of these wearables that is going to measure your health going forward. RPM, or remote patient monitoring, is going to become one of the biggest things going forward for health.
Wow. So we should invest in some stock somewhere in a company like that. Yeah, Nicole, of course.
So with the intermittent fasting, I think you're absolutely spot on. People have been fasting for generations. It's very, lots of religions do it every year. There's a fasting period. And I think the most researched way to fast, to put it simply, is to eat within an 8-hour window during the day. So if you wake up at 8, you start eating it at 9, you would finish at, somebody do the math for me, 8 hours later, which would be 5, right? So then you stop eating, and then you give your body a break in the evening, which is when your body needs a break from eating, and into your resting, into your sleeping. It's going to make your sleep better. Your body's not digesting a giant meal that you just ate half an hour before you went to bed. I will say contraindications for older people is if you don't have a lot of weight to lose, you don't necessarily want to be doing fasting. When we get older, we want to have a little extra weight on us. We don't want to start losing weight. Things can go downhill quickly if we start to rapidly lose weight. Secondly, again, if you have blood sugar issues, you really want to talk to your doctor because you don't want your blood sugar to be going down. If you're trying to control it and keep it even, fasting can throw that off. And then the third thing is some of us are on medications, and if you need food to take with your medication, you want to consider that as well, because you do not want to be fasting and taking some of those medications because you'll get really sick, as I'm sure some of you know. You have to have something in your stomach. So last thing, heart condition. If you have a heart condition, fasting can throw off the electrolytes in your body. So you want to be aware of that. So talk to your doctor always before you start that. But otherwise, I think it could be a really healthy thing to do.
Nice. So if you were going to give us, Nicole, like a couple tips that we can go home and start incorporating today to have a better lifespan, what would that be? Like top things.
Sure. So as far as food, I'll re-quote Michael Pollan, who writes a lot on this. I don't know if you've ever read any of his books. He said to eat food, not too much, mostly plants. So that's a basic thing. So eat food, and I think he meant by food, whole foods, real foods, not processed foods from a box or from a fast food restaurant. He meant like actual food that you get out of the ground. So eat foods, mostly plants, not too much. I will add, eat colorful foods, lots of colors in your diet, and preferably with friends or family. So throw some community in there.
Nice. Lorna, what are a few things that you would recommend we consider incorporating into our daily lives starting today?
Stay active, get those endorphins going. Don't forget to laugh. Laughter is a huge stress and anxiety releaser. Don't take life so seriously. Remember to laugh. And in doing that, I think that helps you with your positive outlook on life.
Nice. I'll be expecting one of you to come up with a really good joke before we end. That'll be really good. Zeno, a couple tips for us today that we can start incorporating?
Yeah, train your weakness, right? And when it comes, we're always talking about this, well, get active, be active. Well, it might, maybe you're a walker and you need to do some stretching or some balance because walking doesn't stimulate that much balance. Maybe your upper body needs some attention. Maybe your, coordination needs some attention. So try, keep adapting, trying new things. These kids in Rossmore are playing pickleball. I don't know if you want to try pickleball or something like that. So again, something different shakes things up for you. You make some new friendships. Maybe it's social. So I think again, the physical activity that's going to work for you now, finding that keeps you engaged and wanting to do more and wanting to hit that sort of sweat point that we're talking about. So it's not enough just to keep doing that same loop on your walk if you're not breaking a sweat, if you're not starting to huff and puff a little bit. So that's your physical need, and if you can build it in with friends, great. And then, it's also tied in with learning. If you pick a new activity like a pickleball, you got to learn a whole new set of rules, a whole court. You got to get a pickle, I guess, right? How do they even play? I don't know. You got to get some pickles and a racket, I think they play with.
Pickle and a racket.
So that's these new physical activities. It seems like, oh, I have to work out, are actually opportunities for learning and growth and social activities too. So don't just think of it as like, oh, I'm just got to go do that. And if you can play some music while you're doing it, great. Ballroom dance, gardening, these are physical activities that actually serve other needs that you might be able to integrate into your life.
Yeah,
so
that's
find
awesome.
that physical activity that checks off more than just one box. That's my best tip.
Multitasking in your physical activity.
Multitasking, exactly.
That's awesome.
Sure, thanks.
And then I guess one more question that I wanted to ask, because I'm curious, is how has aging in America changed? I mean, we know it has. And why do you think that is? Who would like to take that?
I'll just start real quick. It's the boomers. Thank you. That baby boom in the 40s that made all society revolve around them, because there were so many babies, and then there were so many kids, and there was so much rock and roll and cars and television. Now there's so many elders that that's why it's changing. So I don't know which way it's going. It's better, I think, because there's less ageism, but there's still room for it. So that's why it's changing. It's changing because approximately the age of you people in here, it's changing. Yeah. There's so many now.
Awesome. Anyone else want to touch on that?
I'd just like to remind yourself that be an advocate. There's lots of laws that are changing in Washington, and we need to stay current on social and political events happening in our community and in Washington. So stay focused, be an advocate. You're your own best advocate.
That's awesome. That you'd like to end this with, or we can just go straight into raffle. Any final thoughts, Nicole?
I'll just say that I think just by being here is a testament that you're already aging really well, and that you're interested and you're growing and you want to learn, and you're probably practicing most of the things we're already talking about. So just keep up the good work.
Nice. Yes. Okay. So please take a moment. Does anyone need a pen to fill out your evaluation?
Comment too here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Kim.
So in 2015, life expectancy in the United States for the first time started to go down, and it's not, or stabilize. It's not going up like it did from 1950 to the 2000s, basically. And we've seen this change now in that the fact, I think it's related to the fact that medicine 2.0, as Peter Attia talked about, is no longer able to create that life expectancy the way we did. So we have to you have to start exploring other ways to look at your health than the present system, and be bold to look at it differently than what maybe the traditional system is telling you to do. So you need to look at that differently now going forward. And I appreciate your attention and coming here to look at that possibility.
Awesome. Okay, so we're giving you a couple minutes to fill out your evaluations. We love to hear your thoughts. I just want to remind you that I believe all of our speakers today, as well as our education partners, have collateral in the foyer out there if you want to pick that up and start collecting it, putting it in your binder. And as usual, we'll send out the thank you for coming email, and you'll again have all of their contact information. If you want me to put you in touch with any of the education partners or the speakers, let me know. But we're going to do questions now for our panelists. So we saved lots of time because we all have questions. I will start because I have a question for you, Nicole. My question has been, I'm so confused. Do we use avocado oil? No. Do we use coconut oil? Oh, no. Nope, that's the only kind we're supposed to use. Nope, never use coconut oil. Do we use olive oil? Like, what the heck? What oil should I be using in my diet, Nicole?
This is a hard one. I think most of the research up to now has shown that cholesterol and saturated fats in foods do not cause high cholesterol in your body. So I'll say that again. Cholesterol in foods do not cause cholesterol in your body. Now, if you have a heart condition, if you already have a cholesterol issue, if you have heart disease going on, if something's going on, you're not going to want to have a lot of saturated fats, which would be coconut oil, which would be butter, which would be anything that stays solid at room temperature. So I'm not going to recommend one particular oil. I will say that there are some higher quality oils: extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil. They all have different chemical profiles and different beneficial things in them. It gets complicated because it depends on what you're using them for. Some of them are not meant to be used at high heat. Like, I wouldn't use a really nice olive oil for frying things because it doesn't withstand the heat well. Avocado oil does, for instance. Grapeseed oil does. So you want to kind of figure out what you're using it for. Are you using it to drizzle over a salad? Use a really nice avocado oil. That's got great polyunsaturated fats in it. If you're using it to fry with, probably not that olive oil. Don't waste your money. Use like a grapeseed oil, avocado oil, or a little butter if you don't have heart issues. I am a big fan of organic butter. The ones I would caution against are the highly refined oils. We do know those are not good for your health. Canola oil, all the ones that are really cheap at the market and are highly processed are not the best for you. They're inflammatory, like we were talking about. They're going to cause inflammation in your body. So stick for the ones that have one ingredient: olives, avocado, grapeseed, butter, even a little coconut oil is fine too. The ones that are all refined, have lots of different ingredients in them, when you read it on the label, stay away from those. Those are going to do damage in your body.
And you're okay with butter or ghee?
I love both. Ghee is a traditional clarified butter that they use in India and lots of places in Asia that they've been using for, again, thousands and thousands of years. It cooks really well. It has a nuttier taste than butter. I would say if you're going to use butter, and if you can afford it, get organic, because there's lots of antibiotics and hormones that we put into our cows in this country. So if they're eating it, you're eating it. So try to get the organic kind. And again, if you have heart conditions, check with your doctor. You don't want to be overdoing it. But if not, I think some organic butter or organic ghee is a great way to go.
Thank you for answering my question.
Can you add, grass-fed?
Grass-fed is even better.
Oh, grass-fed.
Grass-fed,
Okay.
organic.
Okay.
And to be honest, they're not that much more expensive nowadays than the regular butter. I found them at grocery outlet. I found them at Trader Joe's. You can find them all over, and they're not that much more expensive than plain old butter.
Okay, here's the next question.
Thank you. This is a question for Nicole. My understanding is that protein was very important for seniors to replace muscle mass, but yet you're advocating a high plant diet. Can you explain that?
Great question. And protein is very important, especially as we age. There's more research, like he was talking about with the strength training. You can't build muscle. So you can do all the strength training in the world, but if you're not eating protein, you're not going to be building the muscle, because your muscles need protein to build. And they need it about every 5 to 6 hours. So it's best to spread your protein out throughout the day rather than having one protein meal in the day. Spread it out. Have a little at every meal. As far as plant-based, you can still get lots of protein with a plant-based diet. There's lots of protein in beans and rice. There's lots of protein in quinoa. There's lots of protein. There's protein in mushrooms even. There's protein in soy. Soy is a huge source of protein, and it's really good for you. So even if you're vegan, you can get plenty of protein. You just need to plan it right. If you do eat meat, have some meat. Just don't have 3 servings of meat every day. Have a little meat throughout the week. Have some fish. Fish is a great source of protein. So there's lots of ways to get it, even if you're just not eating meat at all. It just takes a little education on how to get all of the complete proteins that come in meat. I will say meat and animal products have complete proteins. They have all 9 of the essential amino acids. So that's why they're sometimes preferred over plant-based, but you can still get it from plant-based sources. You just have to know how to combine, like beans and rice is a complete protein, whole grain bread and peanut butter is a complete protein. Soy is a complete protein on its own. Just takes a little education, but you can definitely get it.
That's awesome. Do we have a question over here? Sharon?
Nicole, in your presentation, I thought I heard you say that you should consume your protein by the middle of the day. Why would that be? And did I hear you correctly?
I probably said that.
Somebody did.
Yeah, I said that, but the registered dietitian and nutritionist can explain why. In my world, as an athlete, which I still consider myself kind of an athlete, right? That's my mindset. If I don't get protein on board by midway through the day, like half my protein halfway through the day, I know later in the day I'm going to run out of steam, and if I'm trying to work out still later in the day, it's not going to work out. So that's my personal mission: get half my protein halfway through the day. But she can explain why.
Right here.
I mean, I think, yeah, you just said it. Yeah. If you're an athlete, it's a different kind of thing. I would still say eat it throughout the day. And you can talk to a dietitian or your doctor about how much you individually need. We're all different. It's based on our weight. It's based on our stature. It's based on how much activity we're getting. So you can go general, but it's best to narrow it down with your doctor or a dietitian. It's pretty easy to figure out. Eat it at every meal, and if you do exercise, like if you're doing strength training especially, try to have it within an hour after, so your muscles can take it and start rebuilding themselves bigger and better and stronger.
Did they answer your question? More?
Sometimes, we experience a slag or like a flat tire in the afternoon, somewhere around 4 or after. Does that have to do with diet, and can diet change that?
That's very common. I think a lot of it has to do with diet, but it's also a time in our day with our rhythms that the sun's starting to go down. Our bodies are starting to slow down. But diet can definitely have a big impact on that. So I would say make sure you're having some protein rather than something that's going to spike your blood sugar really quickly and then cause you to crash. If you've all had like a donut, which are absolutely delicious, you feel good for about 30 minutes and then you're real tired because your blood sugar goes like that and then it goes back down. So avoid that in the late afternoon because it's going to make the matters even worse. If you want to have a donut, have it in the morning, I would say. Or, treat yourself then. But in the late afternoon, if you're having a snack, have some nuts, maybe apple and peanut butter is one of my favorite snacks. Something that's not going to cause that. You want to keep it stable. And know that I think it's normal for us to kind of start to lose a lot of energy in the late afternoon. Exercising too will bring your energy back up. So if you go for a walk, maybe have it in the late afternoon. That'll breathe deeply. That'll give you more energy to get through that. Yeah, oxygenate to get through that slump.
Okay, here's another question.
Kind of along the same line, I'm curious what you feel about plant-based sweeteners and which one you like.
And which one you like?
Yeah, like
Want to
stevia.
help me with this?
Well, I mean, just real quick, any sweet, like your tongue senses sweet. It doesn't matter if it's fake, or like a stevia. Like your body still has sort of this insulin response and an energy response. If you just like swish your mouth, you don't even have to eat the sugar. Swish your mouth and spit it out. You'll get like your body responds to that. So, I mean, again, there's spiking that you want to avoid. But for me, what I've done is literally, I was a sugar addict when I was a kid. I don't know if anybody, it was like the 70s, we had like a nickel and you could go buy, a lot of candy. So I went through it early. I had a lot of cavities. So I just made a psychological commitment to not sweeten things. I don't know if you guys can do it. I don't know how especially if you have, and then getting dangerously close to pre-diabetic numbers, it was real easy to reassert, beer is a sweetener, for example. But your body responds to sugars and sugar content. So what's your favorite plant-based sweetener? Mine is honey.
Yeah, honey is great. Raw honey and it's also local if you can get it at your farmer's market or something that's local. There's been studies about how that impacts allergies and can help with allergies. I also like stevia. Stevia is from a plant. It's minimally processed, and in the studies, there's been, it's pretty low glycemic index, so it's not going to raise your blood sugar versus raw table sugar, or even the fake sugars like sucralose, or those have lots of chemicals in them, which are have been linked to cancer and all sorts of really bad things that we want to avoid.
Here's another question.
This would probably be a question for either you, Nicole, or you, Paul. There's been some recent research regarding alcohol and causing some forms of cancer. Can you comment on that, and also maybe tell us what the alcohol would actually be doing? And then just a quick second question, Nicole. Are you saying we should stay away from vegetable oil?
Okay, I'll start with the oil. I'm saying some vegetable oils, because the ones I mentioned are vegetables, right? Like the avocado, well, avocado is a fruit. Avocado oil, grapeseed oil, but the canola oils, the safflower oils, sunflower oils, yes, stay away from those. Mainly because they're highly, highly processed. So any of the benefit they had to begin with is kind of gone by the time you get them. They have to be really processed to make them work. They fry really well. That's why people like them. And, you know, canola oil's been around forever. But in the body, they're highly inflammatory. And then the alcohol. Do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So yeah, alcohol is one of the things I deal with in my clinic a lot, related to that question of how much can we tolerate. Obviously, alcohol is a toxin to the system at certain levels, and so that's the concern. And what it does is it's also a sugar, and so that's also a problem that's been linked to cancers, is the sugar issue. But the alcohol affects the liver, and the liver is one of our major detoxification organs, and so that's probably one of the ways it's been linked to breast cancer and other cancers. So it's one of the things you want to take into consideration. So in my clinic, we actually have now a very high-end scale called InBody that actually looks to see how much visceral fat you have. So we can see and measure what the effects of the alcohol in the system. I want to make a comment on this young lady who mentioned about 4 o'clock and feeling tired, right? What's your name again? Sharon. So one of the other things to consider in my concept of valengeriontology is one of the reasons why we age is because we lose hormonal support. It's not that we age and lose hormones. We age because we start losing hormonal support. If you notice, probably when you were younger, you didn't have these things necessarily where you were fading, right? And as you age, you know, as a way for nature to move on our limited resources on Earth, we are meant to continue the circle of life and pass on. And one of the reasons that nature does that is decreasing our hormones, because we become less relevant in the stage of our life as we get older, that we don't need that hormone when we were younger for vitality and for other purposes. So I believe in this field of valengeriontology, hormones are very critical. And I'm not talking about replacing hormones. I'm talking about restoring hormones. So I don't want you to replace your hormones with drugs. I want to give you back your natural hormones to give you back this issue of health and vitality. Now, one of the biggest concerns with hormones is cancer, right? But if you think about it logically, why would nature create something that would eventually kill you? So hormones are not responsible for causing cancer. They may grow cancers because a lot of hormones are growth factors, but they won't necessarily, I believe, cause a cancer. There's always been this linkage to hormones and one of the reasons why we shouldn't use it. But if you thought about the level of hormones causing cancer, then you should see a lot of cancer when you have your hormones level at the highest, when that's during puberty. But we don't see cancer. Matter of fact, the corollary is true. Most of our cancers that we see for breast cancer, for prostate cancer, what are our hormones doing then? They're actually going down. So then why would we blame the hormones? So it doesn't really make sense to blame hormones for cancer causing. It may grow the cancer, but it won't necessarily cause the cancer. So I just make that comment so that one of the things that you may be experiencing in energy is a loss of the hormones too.
When you were talking about good sweets, you mentioned the honey and the stevia. What about agave juice? Agave juice.
Agave nectar? Yes. Yeah, they put it in cocktails a lot. Agave, from what I know, is highly processed also. It comes from a plant, it comes from the cactus, which they make tequila from also, but it's very, very processed. So it's not my first choice, unless you can find like a very, very raw blue agave nectar, which is hard to find. I would go for something that's a little less processed, like honey is not very processed at all, especially if you get the raw kind.
Do you have a recommendation for maybe a cookbook for someone who's moving from meat to plant-based diet?
Molly Katzen has a nice one, Katzen. I don't know if it's necessarily transition, but it's really easy to follow. Very, again, naturally available, under-processed, whole food. Even what's, Alice Waters, of course. Geez, yeah, that little more sophisticated process on those. Diet for a Small Planet is actually one of the coolest books I read when I was like 8 or 9 years old, I think. I came from a vegetarian household, so we had to do some extra work. Bean sprouts on the table, on the kitchen table in the window. Protein right there is available every couple days for us. That was nice. My go-to still, though, is a can of tuna. If you're looking for that protein boost on a plate of lettuce and whatever vegetables are around. It's tough to maintain it, all vegetarian, but I try to build in a few days a week that are meat-free, and it's balance for me.
Nice. And we have time for one more question because our time is up. And who had their...
I tried to be a vegetarian a few years ago and was focusing on tofu. And the dietitians that I worked with said, oh, no, soy is bad. It'll cause breast cancer. Is that a thing still?
I know, there's so many confusing things, it seems like information changes all the time. The stance nowadays on tofu is that it's great. It's a great source of protein. And again, if you consider how long it's been around in Japan, they've been eating soy-based protein for a long time. It's the phytoestrogens that they were concerned about. Those studies turned out to not be super accurate. There are better forms of it too. Organic is huge for tofu, just like we were talking about for dairy. Tofu and soy is highly genetically modified, so you want to try and get the organic kind. And if you can get the kind that hasn't been processed, I keep saying this, processed a lot. So there's tempeh, which is a form of soy that has not been processed a lot. Soybeans, edamame, again, if they're organic, those aren't processed at all. That's how they come off of the plant. Natto is a Japanese form of soy. All of those are not processed and have lots of good bacteria for your gut as well. So if you can get those, they're not that hard to find, but aim for those ones, like uncultured, unprocessed soy products.
Thank these wonderful people. Thank you, Dr. Kim, Nicole, Zeno, and Lorna. You guys were awesome. And, we got together last week for a practice run through. I mean, we try to get you guys some good information here. So again, the goal is to engage, educate, and empower. I hope we did that today. And I hope we see you and your friends you're going to bring next month back here at the Walnut Creek Presbyterian Church. So Happy New Year again. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you soon. Let us know how we can help. Bye.